All right, guys, welcome once again to our podcast. And my name is Oscar. I am the founder of ScaleMySocial. We're a company that helps agents and agencies in the insurance space generate leads, manage ads, and just create systems around marketing. And today, guys, I have a really special guest, Maddie Hoppman, who is an agent that's been in final expense for a year and a half, right? Somewhere around there. A year and a half, guys. And she was kind enough to give us 30, 45 minutes of her time today and spend a little bit of time with us, just talking about the business, kind of her journey, how things have been. She's obviously one of our clients for ad management, and super grateful to have you as that, and just thank you obviously for giving us a little bit of time today to kind of go into your story. And so guys, today she's going to really talk about, and we're going to talk about, again, the challenges that agents that we all face out there from the moment we start to the moment we start really hitting some good numbers and having some good production. And I think that there's going to be some really good nuggets out there for you guys to latch onto, particularly for the new agents that are out there looking for ideas, looking for support, looking for what to do and where to go next. So if you're out there and you're either struggling in this business, or if you're brand new and you're thinking about maybe jumping into life insurance sales, specifically final expense, I think there's a lot of value here for you today. So Maddie, give us a little rundown, introduce yourself, and kind of, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and give us the intro.
Of course. Well, thanks for having me, first off. I'm Maddie Hoppman. I have been in the insurance industry for about a year and a half now. Like most agents, I don't think any of us really think, I want to be an insurance agent. I want to get into the insurance industry. I am originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I've done a little bit of everything. I personal trained. I was in real estate for a little bit, and then I moved to Vegas and started working service industry, bartending, cocktailing, all of that fun stuff. And then I ended up meeting my husband, and he's military. So we moved around a bit, and long-term thinking, I needed something I could do from wherever, because I knew we were going to be moving around every few years. And I did, want a little bit more flexibility as well in the future. And that's where I came across insurance. And I was like, this is something, even if I move, I don't have to worry about, finding a new job, figuring it out. So that's what really drew me to it. And then, I've been about a year and a half now. I think starting out, we all go through our own struggles. We're all at our own pace. And I did not hit the ground running. I'll tell you that.
None of us do.
Yeah. With training, lucky enough, the agency I'm with did give me guidance. I wasn't just thrown to the wolves. Like, good luck, here's a script, figure it out. I did get, some training, but I feel like after, a few months, a lot of us, I know I did get complacent, and then you get stuck at a certain, AP every month, you're seeing the same thing. And it just kind of got to a point where like I needed a little bit more. It was, I was like barely making it, and it was at a point where I either needed to make a change, figure it out, or like get a part-time job, which I really didn't want to do. And then that's where I ended up finding Johnny's community, got more skills training there. And with that, wanted to learn how to make or run my own ads, figure out the lead thing, because with vendors, it's kind of hit or miss. You'll have good weeks, and then you'll have weeks that you're like, I can't close anyone, or it's just so hit or miss. So that's what drew me to that. And I'm super thankful I got the sales training I did. But over the last year and a half, really, I just realized I need someone else running my marketing. Like, my job is to talk to clients, help families, and sell. And the longer you're in the business, the more you realize you really need to focus on, the one thing you're good at and the one thing that, you should be focusing on, which is helping families, making dials, talking to people, and selling. And that's where I'm at. And
absolutely.
Thankfully, I came across you, Ashley, introduced us. And so far working with you, it has been amazing. Not having to worry about the leads, not having to worry about looking into Facebook, like not really understanding everything, being like, should I do this switch? Yeah, it's been great so far. I really appreciate you and your team.
So awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I look, a couple of things. I always take like little notes as guests are talking. And first I want a big shout out to those two people that you named, Ashley Molinex, good friend of mine and an incredible agent herself, that's done some really great things. And she's helped so many people through her channel. And Johnny Nitafan, what a great guy. Someone again that I've known for quite a while, and has come such a long way and is really providing a real value out there for lots of agents that need it. So big shout out to both of those guys and gals. A couple things. So first thing is Alaska. Where are you in Alaska now or no?
No. So I'm originally from Alaska. I couldn't deal with the cold anymore.
Oh man.
So we're currently stationed in Arizona. We're in Tucson. Okay. So a complete opposite. I love the sun. I'm happy to be here. Alaska's beautiful, but I don't do winter. So.
Oh man, it's tough. What branch of the military is your husband in?
He's Air Force.
Nice. Thank you. Obviously, tell him we said thank you for his service. I was in the Marine Corps, so it's always nice to hear folks that are out there serving for the country. So thank you for that. Arizona, yeah, that dry heat. Boy, those summers are something special over there. What a difference. When did you leave Alaska?
Back in, what was it? 2020. And then I kind of bounced around. My dad's from Pennsylvania. Mom's in Alaska. They're split, both remarried. Ended up moving to Pennsylvania, back to Alaska, and then Vegas, where I met my husband. And then we moved to Texas, and now we're here in Arizona. So I've just been
moving around.
Yeah, but we'll be here for a few years, thankfully. So.
Do you guys have any children or no?
No, not yet. Been a little too busy. Maybe in the next few years here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good for you guys. That's fantastic. Okay, so military, a very interesting place to kind of be from. Alaska. I have a lot of family in Canada, and I feel the same. It's like, I can't do the cold. You know, my entire family migrated from Colombia to Canada in the 70s and just back in the day. And I'll visit, but man, once I'm there for like more than a week, it's like, I got to get out of here, guys. It's too much, you know? So I totally get that. Cool. So you went into the business, you fumbled around a little bit. Have you switched agencies and IMOs? Is that something that's been a challenge, or you found a good place?
Wow. I feel like I'm one of the few that, with a lot of people I've spoke with, they kind of bounce around. It's the leads, it's the agency. Luckily, I'm with Jason Final Expense. I freaking love him. Shout out to Jason. I also wouldn't be where I'm at today without him, because he's the type of mentor that if I have any questions, like I can call him, I can text him. He is there. I did have proper training in the beginning, but then it kind of got to a point where I just needed more, daily, scripting, because it's so easy to get complacent when you're just by yourself at your house, on the phone all day.
It's a lonely industry, it's a lonely career and lonely business for sure. Look, it's always great to hear, because as a marketing agency, we work with so many agents, and you hear all these different stories, right, about these different IMOs and agency owners. And there's a ton of not so great stuff out there. But just the same, there really are some really good people out there that provide a really good structure, a system. And I always hear great things about Jason Final Expense. I've never actually, spoken to him, but I hear lots of people that have been part of the agency or part and have nothing but good things to say. So that's great to hear, because like you said, it is something that happens where it's like most people, they jump around. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one, not knowing the industry, having certain expectations, right, of what something is going to be delivered to you or what you're going to get out of something. And I think that's one of what I see, one of the biggest hiccups out there in folks when they try to make it in this business or get into it, is they have a lot of times the wrong expectation of what something is going to be, or they don't give it enough time. And so they go from from thing to thing to thing, which ultimately causes more issues in the end. You know, obviously there's times where you do have to make a business decision and make changes, but you also have to have that balance of letting things run for a bit before you kind of jump from thing to thing, right? And that happens leads, agency, CRM, just about every component.
So much to it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, of the business. It's like, my CRM doesn't work, I'm going to go to this one. My leads don't work, I'm going to go to this one. And so I think that's one of the points that I will kind of mention now to people out there, if you're watching, is that, right? Make sure that whatever structure you go into, whatever CRM you use, whatever tools you use, that one, you do the right research, right? That you do the research and you find out. And I'll ask you in a second, how did you find Jason Final Expense? But once you commit to that, gosh, it's so important to like give it some time and not be so quick to jump out, right? How did you come across Jason? I know obviously he does a lot of like content and social media. How did you come across? How did you find him?
It was actually YouTube, because when I was studying for my license, I was kind of just doing some research, you know, what to look out for, what questions to ask, who you might be working with. And then there was like 2 different people I was looking into working with, and I spoke with Jason over the phone twice, and he just seemed like a really genuine guy, you know, was there for any questions, was very upfront about everything, answered all the questions, you know, didn't dodge anything, you know, was just super transparent and seemed like a really genuine guy. So I was like, this feels right, you know, and it's been great ever since, because you need someone that you can trust. Being new at anything, you don't know what you're doing. In the beginning, you're like, you know, every day you come across something that you're like, I don't know this. So it's important just to have a mentor or someone to be able to ask all those questions.
Agreed. Yeah. And it's a lot of times, like, you get that gut feeling, you know, you mentioned like connecting with someone, right? Because sometimes we don't trust our gut, and maybe because somebody else said this or someone else said that, you end up choosing something else rather than kind of trusting yourself and having that connection with someone. So I think, you know, again, that's part of this, right? Do the research, talk to people, and make sure that those people and those systems, those businesses really align with what you want to do, right? It's not just about making money. You can make money anywhere, but I think it's so important to align with other people that have the same ideas, the same fundamentals, because it just makes a huge difference, right? If you end up with someone or an agency that doesn't align with you, it's not going to feel good, guys, right? You're going to feel like, man, this just doesn't feel right. I don't feel like this is my home. And it's going to cause a bigger struggle and a challenge for you to actually make it. So that's really great to hear. And I think it speaks to why you're still there, right? Because you did the research, you spoke to him, you connected with him, and it felt right to you. And so here you are, right? 1.5 years later. The other interesting part is that although you found a home, that wasn't everything, right? You still needed to figure out leads, and you still needed to figure out all these different components. And again, I think that's something that agents struggle with when they come in, that they think that the agency should have everything, right? And like that it's just out of the box, ready to go, and that nothing should go wrong, and that and so shed a little bit of light on that for people as your experience has been. The idea of understanding that, okay, now I found a good agency, but I also need to find all these other pieces. How did you go about that? And how did you start like looking for leads and these other pieces?
Yeah, I think when you're new in the business, you kind of get what your agency teaches you, you know, this is all you know. But once you get to a certain point, at the end of the day, like, we work for ourselves, you know, this is a business of you eat what you kill. You know, if you're not making sales, if you're not getting to where you want to be, especially for me, I was hitting the same number every single month for like 3 months, 4 months. And I was like, okay, I need to make a change. You know, it's not working. And I am a true believer that you need to invest in yourself, you know, in all areas of life. But for this business, you know, it is all on you. So even though, you know, I'm working with one agency, it doesn't mean I can't invest in myself, learn more sales skills, join another community of people that are where I want to be or have been through the ringer, what I'm going through now, and can tell me, I did this is what you need to do to get to the other side. So I just think always investing in yourself, to get to the next level is important.
Yeah. It's I think that, when you invest in yourself and getting over that hump, because a lot of people, right, and that was me. If I look back at a younger version of me, right, I'm an older guy now, but as a younger version of me, I was always this person that like, oh, I can figure this out, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need a coach. I don't need mentorship. I don't need this guidance. Put me out on the street and I'm going to figure this thing out. And I do have that resilience, right? I have been able to do those things in my life, but now as a more mature person, I can really understand and see the benefits of mentorship, coaching, and aligning with people that, mm-hmm. right, that have your same fundamental beliefs and are kind of trying to do the same thing that you are. So that's awesome to hear. And I think that's a really important thing for people out there, right? So tell me a little bit, you mentioned complacency, right? You've said that word a couple times, which I think mm-hmm. is a real big pain point for a lot of agents in this business, where you get to a certain point, you feel good about what you're doing, and then it's really easy to just like stay there. And then little by little, like you see the tapering off, right? You mm-hmm. see the decline. So speak a little bit about specifically, how did you acknowledge, right? How did you get to a place where you were like, oh shoot, I'm allowing myself to just trail off? Mm-hmm. What was the trigger for you in those moments to say, I need to do something different?
Mm-hmm. Well, one, my bank account, in the business, you're throwing a lot of money into this, you're buying leads, you're spending money on the system, CRM, dialer, all of that. And it adds up. Yeah. And you can have a great month, but if it's not consistent, and if the persistency isn't there too, it might look good up front, but then a month or two, if half of that gets charged back, it can be a scary thing. But for me, I think it was like around 8,000 I was hitting for like 3 months straight. And I was like, I need to do better. This isn't, it's getting to a point where like I bought a place in Vegas when I was living there, and like I have a mortgage. It's not something you can just, oh, we'll figure it out. No. So I think for me, the scary part was like, I literally will need to get another job soon here if I don't figure this out. And it's so easy to have like your pride and ego in this business as well, that you kind of have to look yourself straight in the eye and be like, I need to make a change. So I was like, I need to hire, a mentor or just get more training to get me to the next level. So
yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. And I look, for you, it's black and white, right? It was like money, it's like, all right, well, I'm not making money. So clearly something is off here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not as black and white, I think, because what I see a lot is agents that get to a certain point and they're doing okay, right? They're paying their bills, and that's a scary place to be, right? A place where you're actually paying your bills. So the pressures of money isn't so much what is the deciding factor. It's more so like they just get to this level and they feel like they've made it, right? Mm-hmm. Right. There's nothing else I can do, right? Like I'm at a peak level, without understanding and having that self-awareness that, wow, well, if I can get here, I can certainly get here, but I might not be able to get there, right? And being able to gauge that, right? Because you said something, right? Like you made X amount of dollars for 2 or 3 months. And so as a business owner, those are the things that we have to look at and say, okay, if I'm stagnant, right? Whether I'm profitable or not profitable, if I'm stagnant at this level and not growing, particularly in the first 3 to 5 years of any business, then something is off, right? And having the awareness of knowing that, okay, X amount of time has gone by, I'm not seeing growth, I'm not seeing change. I need to look at myself, my business, my systems, because I should be right? I should be going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, in business, there's always ups and downs on a short term, and you always have to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, when you take a step back and you look at your business over 6 months, over a year, and you see stagnation, then you really need to be aware to say, okay, I need some help, right? I need to be able to make change to get there. So obviously, again, money is one of those things that drives you to get to that place.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly, you know. So good. So and I think so you made the change, right? You went and got some coaching, you got some stuff, you invested in yourself. At that point, were you, or had you tried running your own ads, or at that point you were still just kind of buying leads and dealing with vendors?
For the most part, in the beginning, like I'd say for the first year or so, I was just buying from different vendors, trying different vendors, and it was hit or miss. Like there would be weeks I'm like, okay, like this isn't bad, you know, and then the next week I would buy 100 leads and sell maybe one, and I'm like, I can't close anyone, and I just dropped 1,200 on these or whatever. And then I joined Johnny's community and learned like how to run ads, all of that. But there's still so much that goes into it that, you know, I'm super grateful I learned that. It's a great skill to have. But that's not what I'm super knowledgeable on. Like I'll look at the numbers and, you know, try to test things, creatives. But it takes away from my dialing time, because that's where I'm making money, you know, helping families. And there's just a lot that goes into it, which it was great, but I feel like it dips. You know, you have a month sometimes where the leads, just the quality isn't as great. And I just don't know enough about all that, haven't been doing it long enough. So I think it's a great skill to know, but as of right now, it just makes sense to focus on what I'm good at and leave that to you guys.
It's and so what can we give agents out there that are in that phase of not quite ready to start lead generation? And I said this to you off recording. I said, you know, I believe this, and I say this on social media all the time, like not everybody should go right into lead generation, right? I think there is a place, particularly for certain new agents, where it's like, okay, just get some leads, you know, get some practice, get your pitch out, get your presentation kind of lined up. Where did you find, like, if you had to look back on all the different types of leads that you purchased, where did you find the most consistency? Was it a fresh social media lead? I think you said you've never done live transfers. You maybe tried age data. Where was the spot that you were like, oh, this maybe works?
I pretty much only use like Facebook, you know, digital leads. I haven't explored out much. I've used different vendors, but I think it's all just Facebook. In the beginning, I tried the age leads a little bit after a few months in, because you listen to a podcast or something, they're like, just get age leads, call them through, which I get. If you don't have money set aside to be able to, you know, throw $1,000 every week at leads, then maybe start at the age leads, just get the pitch out, practice the script. Absolutely. But new leads are where it's at. They're typically know why you're calling. Not all the time, but it is better than a 3 or 2 month old lead that, you know.
Of course. That's been ran through by a million people, you know. It builds character. I've always said that to people, like when you start on age lead. It certainly will help you build your character and build a little bit of a tougher skin, which guys you need, right? I think whether it's a fresh lead, whether it's an age lead, you have to be prepared for the no's. And if you're not getting no's, then you're not calling enough people, right? Just like if you're not getting people that don't close at the end, you're not talking to enough people, because sales is truly a number game. And I think, again, one of those expectations that people are like, oh, but I talked to 10 people today and, you know, nobody signed up, or I talked to 8, or, you know, these conversations that I hear and agents talk. It's always like, you can either look at things from a negative perspective, right? Nobody's picking up, nobody's doing this, nobody's answering, I can't close it. Or you can have a positive view on things where it's like, okay, I'm closer to the person that is going to need me, that I am going to be able to help, particularly when we talk about like fresh leads, right? Because even with what we do for you, like you're not going to close 100 out of 100, right? There's a percentage, and a big percentage at that will never become your client, right? But if you don't have the opportunity to speak to those people, then you're not going to be able to, just like you find the people who say no, you're not going to have the opportunity to find the people that say yes. And so I think that's part of a real mindset that you need to have. And I believe that why you have been able to now start seeing the success that you're seeing, which we'll get into some of your numbers here in a second, has been one, because like you said, from the beginning, you kind of have been working online leads, right? So you, at some point after doing it for a certain amount of time, right? Like I said in the beginning, like you got to give things time. You start understanding how this works, right? That, okay, 100 people come into my funnel, and 5 to 12% of these folks will be my clients. But the rest of them will not, right? The rest of them are people that numbers don't work, they don't pick up. And so you can either choose to focus on that, right? The ones that don't pick up and the ones that don't convert, or you can have that mentality of like, okay, I have a tough skin, and I know that here in these 100, I'm going to find my 5 to 12 clients. Would you say that's kind of something that's helped you now where you are and moving on?
I think for any new agent, I would definitely say whatever you do, track your numbers, because in the beginning, I'd make little tally marks, on the side and like try to look back. But when I joined Johnny's community, they have like a tracker that tracks everything. And when you look at the numbers, it doesn't lie. You see exactly what it is, what you need to work on. And it's so easy to get emotional in the business. Like, oh, why is this happening? I was only able to do this, but then you look at how many dials you did, and it makes sense,
Right.
So it really is a numbers game at the end of the day. You could be the worst on the phones. You're going to come across laydowns here and there. You're going to still make sales. If you have a high activity, it gets better, and you're going to accidentally get better over time as well.
Agreed. Yeah. I think so. Tracking, so important, right? So important. I'm always amazed at how many agents are out there that don't track. It's like they're just flying by the seat of their pants. Like they have no idea. And you pinned it like right on the head, right? That leads to emotional thinking, and like, well, it must be the leads, it must be the CRM, it must be my upline, it must be all these other things. When in reality, when you start really breaking it down, right? How many calls did you do? How many presentations did you do? How many appointments did you do? How many sales did you do? You really start understanding where the cracks are in that entire sales system, right? It could be that you're not spending the time on the phones that you need to get the opportunities. It could be that you're losing the opportunity when you speak to them because you need coaching and you need sales training. These are things, guys, that you will never identify if you're not tracking and looking at your own numbers. So I think that's awesome that you mentioned that to them. As far as like, you mentioned, tracking, then you said something important. When you'll get better, right? You said like, okay, like you're going to come across deals if you're not a good salesperson, and eventually you get better. What would you say, like if you went back and you didn't do the training and you didn't add coaching, how long do you think, well, one, would you have made it, right? Or would you have probably been, like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
How long would somebody need to give to like see if they can get better?
I mean, starting out in the business, you're gonna suck. It's just what it is. Starting anything new, it's awkward, it's hard, it's frustrating. But I was told when I first got in, like, you have to give it a year, and it's scary. If you have to work a part-time job, do it. But you have to commit. You have to put the hours in. But at least a year. Yeah. They say if you make it past the first year, you're, on the up and up. It's everyone's at their own pace. Some people kill it right out of the gate. Most people don't. Most people don't make it to the year, I feel. But yeah, I would say at least a year, and then just making sure you do have a mentor, training constantly, scripting, role playing, working on
a system.
It's important to just stay on top of everything.
Agreed. Yeah. So, look, I think that the system that you plug into is so important, right? And that's why somebody like Johnny, who's providing that, is doing well, right? Because there's a real gap in that out there right now, in agents that need those things. And some people need it more than others, right? Some people are good at sales, they've done it before, and they come in and boom, they're off to the races. And others have been teachers and have been, these 9-to-5 individuals that have never done sales. And so those people, and if you're out there, right, if you've never done sales and you're considering, or you've joined Final Expense and now you're in that struggle period where it's like, man, I can't close a door, like I can't get this thing done, go get help, right? Go get help. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of companies out there that provide really, really good systems and trainings. Okay, awesome. So now let's talk a little bit about, now fast forward to where we are today, to what the last kind of 60 days, and we've been working with you now for, I guess, 60 days, right? I mean, you started a little bit before that, but we were getting you set up and getting things situated. Actually, before we do that, you did mention that you did try running your own ads, right? That was something that you did. Okay. What was the biggest thing that you identified or saw where you were like, this isn't working, like something's off, right? What was that when you tried doing it yourself?
One, I'm the type that, like, you're supposed to check them every morning. You're supposed to, track everything. But like the second my leads, something happens and they spike up double the cost or triple the cost. It happens, it fluctuates, but you just look at averages. I'm the type that I'm like, I need to switch this. This isn't working. I need to, and you can't do that. You have to give it time. So one, just not being knowledgeable enough. Like, it was awesome to be able to, learn how to run my own ads and what to really watch for. But I think just the fluctuations, like in the beginning, I feel like my ads were crushing and, I was closing a bunch. And then for a month or so, a couple months, the quality was kind of wonky. And then just the, cost per lead, it would go up quite a bit. And then, which it was still better than vendors typically are going to be spending at least like 15 to 20 something per lead. But I think just taking away from like sales, it was just too much to wear all the different hats. And it just, got to a point where I was like, I just don't want to even look at it. I don't want to worry about it. I just want leads coming in, and I just want to do my job and focus on the phones.
Yeah. And it brings you to a place, right? Because it's an added level of stress and pressure, because now you're not just a salesperson, you're not just writing insurance, you're also a marketer, right? And so you're trying to learn both. Gosh, it's already hard enough to figure out how to sell insurance and maintain clients and all that. Now to add a marketing piece, which is just as hard, right? If not harder, right? Not in the sense of like, is it easy to start a campaign? Simple, right? Like, starting a campaign is not what the difficult part, right? Like, it's the ongoing management, it's the expectation. It's like, well, what do I do if my ads spike and my leads spike to $15, $20 a piece? What's the solution here? Is it cutting it? Is it spending more? And I think those variables is what really puts people in a tough place of again, that pressure, anxiety. And so got it. So same thing, like, it sounds like you really have very good like self-awareness, right? Where it's like, which some of us don't have, right? Where you get to a place where it's like, okay, this is not what I can do. I need help, right? So that is a clear message out there, guys. If you are at those places, don't try to figure it out, right? Sometimes we just can't do it on our own, and that's okay, right? Like, here's another success story, right? That she decided like, hey, I need help. I'm going to figure this out. And it's not just going to be me doing it. And here we are. Right. Okay. And so then we started helping. We came in and we rolled out the ads. And I think really from the start, the ads really kind of started producing and really started hitting the ground. What was the main difference that you found in that lead that was being generated, right? Whether it's just the quality, the people you talk to, like what was it that you saw immediately and were like, wow, this is clicking, that then got you to write, 20,000 in that month?
I think one, cost per lead went down, which is awesome. And it fluctuates, especially when you first start running ads. It's going to take a while. Cost per lead and then quality. Because for a while there, I feel like there was a span of almost 2 months that almost everyone I was speaking to was like a GI client with like a 25 a month budget. Yeah. Which isn't typically the type of clients we want to be spending an hour on the phone with. Sure. But yeah, I just think quality of leads and then cost per lead, definitely being able to, throw more money on it and get more leads in return. Because it is a numbers game, but also you want quality and just not having to spend the time to have to worry about managing it. Yeah. I think, okay, so good. So price per lead, quality of lead, right? And so I looked at some of your stats, right, for the month of January. And so your average cost per lead for the month of January was $7.48, which is outstanding, right? Awesome. If you're out there looking at stuff, guys, if you're buying leads, an average lead for final expense is, no less than $15, like you said, and then more so around like 20, 25, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. If they're any kind of quality. Right. And in the month of January, from looking at your ad account here, looks like you generated about 344 leads in the month, right? Which is under 100, right? Which is, if anybody that's out there watching and you guys follow me, you know that I'm always trying to get my clients to 100 plus, right? I think that's the sweet spot where you're going to be able to really do some damage and see some really good results. You're actually doing it on less than that, which only speaks to the skill that you've been able to really develop, right? Your sale, because that's the other part of this, guys, right? Like, yes, cost per lead is fantastic. Yes, quality of leads are fantastic. But if you don't know how to convert that sale, then it doesn't matter how low of a lead you're paying for or the quality of that lead. If you don't know how to take the person through the journey of closing and selling them life insurance, then none of it matters, right? So, for you to like give that transparency. So on 344 leads, last month you closed, I think you said 21 deals, right? Yep. So just under 7%, right? Which is, again, proof that you're not going to close every lead, right? And I think I said that a couple minutes ago. You're going to close between 4 and 12%. That's the gauge that you guys should have. And as you get better, right, those closing rates will start increasing and you'll need less leads to kind of convert and do those things. But this is a real example. And we talked about this before we started the interview, that you've now upped your spend because your goal now is to hit a higher number, right? You want to hit 25, you want to hit 30. And it's clear that to do that, you don't necessarily need to be a better closer. You immediately can do that by just increasing the amount of leads that you're taking in on a monthly basis, right? So you did, just breaking down these numbers so we can continue. So you spent about 25, it looks like about just under $2,600 on ads in January. Is that right? Okay. And then from there, you wrote 19,696, right? So
almost there.
Yeah. Almost there, right? So what an incredible number, right? I mean, you spent 2,500 and wrote 19. that's an incredible return on investment, and kudos to you for the work. And I'm sure it wasn't easy, right, to write 21 policies in 30 days. What's your work ethic? Can you give us a little bit of that? Like, what time do you start? How many dials are you kind of doing in a day, and like Saturdays, or like, give us a little bit of insight on that.
I try to get up at like 4:35 every day and be at the gym by like 5:15. I tried 5, but it's just like, usually I'm rolling in right after 5. Like, get my morning workout in. I just feel like getting the body moving, it helps keep me awake and just be ready for the day. And then I'm on the phones making dials by 8, like no later. If I'm earlier, 7:30, that's great. I can work East Coast.
Yep.
But yeah, 8, I try to work for about 4 hours, take a lunch break. And then, keep dialing until about 5:36. And then I review calls, and kind of just go back. I take notes, any objection I get. I have like a little chart. Everyone I speak with, I jot down what happened in the conversation, what objection came up. And that's how you keep track of follow-ups as well. If you present what came up, why didn't you close it? You can go back and give them a call and, where you left off.
Fantastic. So, right. So 4 hours before you do lunch, and then you do lunch, and you probably work, it sounds like, another 4 or 5 hours. So you're really on the phones, truly like dialing, 8 hours a day, 8 hours plus some days, it sounds like.
And then I always try to work at least a half day on Saturday, because Saturday is arguably, at least for me, the best day to dial, because people are hanging out, they're at home, the pickup rates are way better. Saturdays are great. Yeah.
It always like boggles me how new agents, primarily the ones that aren't making a lot of money, don't work Saturdays, right? Sometimes it upsets me, right? Especially when I get on a call with an agent and they're like, oh, well, they're not doing the dials, they're not doing the activity. And it's like, well, are you working Saturdays? Because 90% of agents are not, but the people are sitting at home, right? Especially this audience. So why aren't you calling on Saturdays, right? Because that's the day where you clean up your week, right? Follow up and typically on ads, when you run ads, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably see a good amount of leads come in on Saturdays, right? Because people are home, right? People aren't working. So you're going to see a higher amount of people going into the lead form and submitting that. And instead of waiting until Monday, why not be the person to get a hold of them that day that they filled out the lead form? So awesome. So then you're probably on most weeks 40 plus hours, right? You're more than 40 hours on average.
Yeah. I mean, there is admin work and little things you have to do. But yeah, I try to hit like 300 dials a day. But at the end of the day, it depends how much talk time you have, right? I use Kixie. It's a great dialer. I love it. You can call if I have a lot of older leads that I haven't touched. I'll dial like 2 or 3 at a time too, just to get, more dials in. Because old leads there's still a lot of, sales and old leads. Like never just get rid of old leads. I always work newest to oldest. But sometimes old leads are even better every now and then, because they've spoke to a few people, they kind of know the deal. And it's sometimes just not the right time. You call them a couple weeks later or a month later, and then they're ready. So
yeah. And data, guys, here's data, right? Real data that I see from all the ads that we manage and all the agents that we talk to. So whatever your closing percentage is, right? 6% in your case, 7% in your case right now or last month. Guys, you're not going to close 100% of that 6 or 7 or 10% in the first week of getting those leads, right? Like, you're going to close a percentage of your closing rate in the first week and second week. And typically about 30 to 40% of your sales are going to come from leads that are actually 14 day plus old, right? You're going to get, again, out of your, whatever your closing rate is, you're going to close a percentage of that from leads that came in a week or 2 weeks. Would you find that that's kind of what you see as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because, sometimes they finally respond to a text, or you can finally get them on the phone because it wasn't ringing the first week or second week. So yeah, it's so important just to go back and dial through.
Yep. So important, guys. So keep that in mind. It's not just about a fresh lead. It's not just about, if you didn't get them on the phone in the first 3 days, like, well, are we done calling them? Gosh, you should not. You should be having a system, and Kixie has an incredible system. I'll give a shout out to my buddy Dart over there, who's one of the higher ups, and we're a preferred partner with them. We refer a ton of business to them, and they are an incredible system, guys. So big shout out to them, because they do help you organize that and have those lists, right, that you can call based on how old it is and being able to follow up. And it's nice and easy to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to call my leads from 2 weeks ago and just focus on that. I'm just going to hit those. Is that what you're doing, setting up hot lists?
Yep, just power lists for, new leads, follow-ups, 2 week old, 3 week old.
Fantastic. So awesome. So look, I think what the common thing that I find, right, that you say, and just again, successful agents that I talk to, is a lot of them, they're starting their days early, right? They're starting their days with a workout, with a walk, with something to get the body moving. And then when it's time to work, it's time to work, right? We're not stopping to take a break. We're not going to watch TV for a minute. We're not doing all these things that can take away from what we're supposed to do every single day. And that consistency, right? That day in and day out. I always ask this of agents, and I'll ask you to give us a little bit of your thoughts. What helps you come back the next day after a tough day of dialing, right? After that day where you did, like you said, 300 dials and you didn't get your sale or your 2 sales, how do you mentally prepare the next morning when you go to do it all over again? Because I think that's something a lot of agents would like to hear and know.
It's part of the business. It's easy, like we talked about earlier, to get emotional about it. But I always look back at my numbers, because at the end of the month, if I make X amount of dials, it always balances out right around, and it's funny because sometimes you'll start the first half of the day and you're like, I'm getting my butt kicked. I can't, everyone's hanging up on me. And I just feel like sometimes when you have a really crappy day, the day prior, even the first half of the day, sometimes that ends up being the best day. You end up writing, 3,000 AP at night because you got 2 apps or 3 apps, husband and wife, or, whatever. So I just always look back, because I know even if I get like 3 smaller policies, I know a big one's coming eventually. It's just a numbers game. So if I'm consistent with the dials, the contacts, the presentations, eventually at the end of the month, it will balance out.
Persistence, guys, right? Persistence. It's not an emotional thought. I'm the same way. If I'm on the phones and I'm having a bad day, right? When I was writing insurance and it was like 2:00 and I'm just getting hung up on, and I'm not, some people will like buckle down, right? And like, oh, I can't do this. This is not, I'm going to go take a break. Some of us are like, no, I am not getting up off of here until I do what I'm supposed to do. And so keep in mind, guys, persistency and discipline. You got to have discipline, because there's nobody around her, right? Look, she's in her office. Like, there's nobody behind her saying, hey, you got to stay on it today. You didn't get a deal. It's 2:00. Well, we got to keep going. So how do you hold yourself accountable? Who holds you accountable? Nobody, guys. This is your business. So you have to develop the discipline. If you don't have it, be aware, acknowledge that you might not have it, and go seek accountability within a team or a structure, because you need to know, if you don't have it, then you need it, right? Because if you don't have the discipline, the persistence, then you're going to have a really, really hard time getting to success within this industry. Okay, awesome. Last thing on the numbers that we'll go over here, and then I'll let you go. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You got to get back to work. So you wrote, I didn't say we, like I was on the phone there selling for you, 19,696 for the month. You spent 2,574. average lead cost of $7.48. Total leads for last month, 344. Guys, CPAs, right? Which is the number that I track, that I make sure every agent that I'm working with is understands and knows. CPAs, the cost per acquisition, guys. What does it cost you to actually acquire a policy sold, somebody that pays you money? Because that's what's important. Cost per lead is great. Amount of leads, all these things are good metrics to understand and follow, but nothing means more than the cost per acquisition, because that's actually money into your business and profitability, right? So your cost per acquisition last month, $122.57, which is incredible. I mentioned to you the average out there, like I think industry wide is 180 to like 220, 230. I think that's where a lot of people lie. So $122, what does that mean? Guys, if you're making an average of $900 a policy or somewhere on there, and it only costs you $122 of that 900 to generate that policy, then you have an extremely good profit margin. Even though it's an advancement, you have a lot of cash flow to be able to work, continue building, and know that you're on the right track. So make sure, guys, that you're tracking your CPAs and that you're tracking your numbers. Maddie, last thoughts that we want to give folks, like what's something that if you think about, I like putting people on the spot on this, like what would be that last thought that an agent should know to help them in this business? Anything that comes to mind that you want to leave them with?
I think we pretty much touched on everything. I mean, the persistency, at the end of the day, you just got to show up. I don't do, I'll call myself out. I'm not always, on schedule as I should be, but if you're showing up, if you're putting the work in, it doesn't matter if you have to work an extra Saturday. If you didn't hit your numbers Monday through Saturday, maybe you have to work a Sunday every now and then. Just showing up, getting the activity in, tracking numbers, and don't get lazy with the scripting, staying on top of, objection handling, but at the end of the day, activity always trumps all. That's what I say. So if you're in a rut, go make 500 dials and see what happens.
You got
It'll
it.
be good.
I love it. Fantastic. Maddie, do you want to give people social media? I don't know if you're a social media person, if you post or anything like that, but if you want to drop anything to go follow you and check you out, feel free to do that.
Yeah, I'm not too much on social media these days, but my Instagram is Maddie Hoppman.
Awesome. Go look at her, guys. Go give her a follow. And I think that a tremendous amount of value. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Maddie. Guys, if you want to follow me, I'm on every social media channel at ScaleMySocial. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Share this video with anybody that you think could bring some value to. And I appreciate everybody out there watching and tuning in. And I want to appreciate you. I want to say thank you so much, Maddie, for spending this time with me and giving us the opportunity to have a little bit of insights on your business and how you've done. Congratulations on what you're doing, and hope to be able to continue to help you and continue to see your journey excel. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Oscar. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.